We're completing the chapter summary of chapter 10, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. The deliverance of Nalakuvera and Manigriva, the two Jammal Arjun trees.
Lord Krishna, by the design of his devotee, uprooted these Yamalarjuna trees, and when Nalakuvera and Manigriva were thus delivered by Krishna after 100 years of the Devas, their old consciousness revived, and they offered Krishna prayers suitable to be offered by demigods. Having thus often the opportunity to see Krishna face to face, they understood how merciful Narada Muni was, and therefore they expressed their indebtedness to him and thanked him. Then, after circumambulating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, they departed for their respective abodes. Chapter summary.
As sweet as the previous chapter was, with the loving pastimes between Mother Yasoda and child Krishna, this chapter is very serious because it's dealing with the sinful reactions of meat eating, gambling, illicit association with women, and intoxication. How these things chain us and bind us to repeated birth and death, and very abominable births also. So Prabhupada in his purports in this particular chapter, not only is Prabhupada very serious, but Sukadeva Goswami is also very serious, so that we understand how dangerous it is that when we attain the four types of opulences in human life, which is wealth, good birth, good family, aristocratic family, education, and beauty, if we start to identify with these four qualities that have been awarded to us from previous pious activities, then we get into a lot of trouble, especially when it comes to wealth. So we'll hear more about this.
The story of cursing of Nalakuvera and Manigriva and their deliverance by Krishna under the all blissful desire of the great sage Narada is here described. Krishna Book Chapter 10. King Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, O great and powerful saint, what was the cause of Nalakuvera's and Manigriva's having been cursed by Narada Muni? What did they do that was so abominable that even Narada, the great sage, became angry at them? Kindly describe this to me. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.1.
So this is the fourth question by Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto. Because as he's proceeding, he wants Sukadeva Goswami to continue more and more. So he's asking questions so that he'll speak more and more and explain more things.
The two great demigods Nalakuvera and Manigriva were sons of the treasurer of the demigods Kuvera, who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulences had no limit. As a rich man's sons often become addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once these two demigods, desiring to enjoy, entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailash on the bank of Mandakini Ganges. There they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of beautiful women who accompanied them in that garden of fragrant flowers. Krishna Book Chapter 10.
So this is a picture of Kuvera. Kuvera is described as plump, and he has one yellow eye. Sometimes it's described that he has protrusions of long teeth coming on the side. And his wife is sometimes called Riddhi and sometimes called Bhadra. And because Kuvera worshipped Lord Shiva gave him a lot of opulence in the form of wealth. and also gave him residence at Alakapuri, which is at the base of Mount Kailash, near Mandakini River. So now that Mount Kailash and that whole area is within the area of Tibet, although it used to all be one area. For instance, all around this middle Asiatic area where India is, and up north and to the west and also to the east, it used to all be Vedic culture. And you can even see remnants of it. For instance, in Bali, there's still Hindu there. And in Thailand, they still worship Lord Brahma, and they have their own Ramayana. So even in Kazakhstan and the other stans up there, they have remnants of demigod worship. And Kuvera, his place is there, and he oversees the yakshas there. They're his servants. And because of his wealth, by some type of sukriti, I haven't been able to find out what it was, but Nalukuvara and Manigriva were born as the sons of Kuvera, and because they were born with so much wealth, they took advantage of that in the wrong way, and they used it for intoxication and for enjoyment with women, because those things are available in the heavenly planets. The heavenly planets are just like if you work very hard and then you're given a vacation and you go to a nice place for that vacation. But then when your money runs out and your time runs out, you have to come back to work again. So the heavenly planets are like that. You can go up and enjoy for some time, but then when your pious credits run out, then you fall down again. Not only to earth, you can fall down to lower planets as well if you performed sinful activities while you were in heaven.
Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, because the two sons of Kuvera had been elevated to the association of Lord Shiva, of which they were very much proud, they were allowed to wander in a garden attached to Kailash hill on the bank of Mandakini river. Taking advantage of this, they used to drink a kind of liquor called Varuni. Accompanied by women singing after them, they would wander in that garden of flowers, their eyes always rolling in intoxication. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.2 and 3.
So this is what Kailash and the surrounding area looks like nowadays. It's quite dry, and Mount Kailash is inaccessible. No one dares to climb on Mount Kailash, just as we would never climb on Govardhan Hill. So the devotees of Lord Shiva would never climb on Mount Kailash. They only circumambulate Mount Kailash. There's certain times in the year that the bhaktas go there. And we can just imagine how beautiful it was previously. In Kali Yuga, Prabhupada explains that the dhams become covered. Just like brilliant gold becomes tarnished. So the dhams also become covered during Kali Yuga. Just like we can see here in Vrindavan, 50 years ago, there were white sands on the parikrama. There were no buildings whatsoever, nothing. It was just forests and a few ashrams and temples. No high rises, nothing like that. Even in front of our temple, no shops whatsoever, just one little lassi shop run by Bihari Lal. But now, due to the advanced influence of Kali Yuga in just 50 years, you can hardly recognize this area of Raman Reti anymore as being a holy place where Krishna used to graze the cows. So similarly, Mount Kailash, according to the Shastras, it was surrounded by beautiful heavenly gardens and the Mandakini river, and the demigods, Apsaras, Gandharvas used to come and sport here, those who were worshippers of Lord Shiva who got his benedictions.
This verse mentions some of the material advantages afforded to persons associated with or devoted to Lord Shiva. Apart from Lord Shiva, if one is a devotee of any other demigod, one receives some material advantages. Foolish people therefore become devotees of demigods. This has been pointed out and criticized by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita 7.20. Kamaistaisterrataggyana prapadyante anya devataha. Those who are not devotees of Krishna have a taste for women, wine and so forth, and therefore they have been described as Ritadjnana, bereft of sense, purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.2 and 3.
Bereft of sense, Rita, just like you have the word Hari, one who takes away. So this Rita, their intelligence has been stolen because they have material desires, and therefore their concept of the Supreme Lord is covered by these material desires, just like clouds. And it's recommended, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a long list given of which demigod to worship depending upon which type of benediction you're seeking. For instance, if you want good health, then you worship Surya Dev. That's why the Surya Namaskar yoga asanas are there. If you want a good wife, then you worship Uma Devi. If you want a good husband, then you worship Lord Shiva, like that. So the whole long list. But ultimately, at the end of the list, it says, if you want fame, then you worship Lord Vishnu. Because the devotees are most famous for just being pure devotees who seek no material benefit from the Supreme Lord. But those who have material desires, they think that they should go to the demigods to fulfill those desires. So the Shiva Bhaktas, Bhakta means bhaja. It comes from the word bhaja, which means to worship. And that can only be applied to Sri Krishna. Because so long as one is looking for some benediction or some business transaction, that I'll worship you, this is called puja. I'll do a puja for you to get something back from you. So that's the difference between puja and seva. We do seva to the Lord, bhaj. We worship the Lord. So it's not real Shiva bhakti. It's simply a business transaction. Just like Vrikasura, he asked Narada Muni, which demigod gives the quickest benediction? Narada Muni told him Lord Shiva. So he performed absolutely gruesome tapasya, cutting off pieces of his flesh, offering it into the fire so that he could get Lord Shiva's attention quickly. And that benediction that he asked for to anyone whose head he touched would turn into Bhasham. Therefore he was also called Bhashmasura. He wanted to try it on Lord Shiva because he wanted to marry Lord Shiva's wife. So Lord Shiva himself got in trouble by his own so-called bhakta. So this has nothing to do with love. It's just a business transaction.
Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. Bhagavad-Gita 7.20. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of Supreme Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literatures there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. For example, a deceased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all.
Because Krishna describes in the Bhagavad-Gita that all the demigods, he's the source of everything. So even the demigods come from him. And the demigods themselves are Jiv Atmas, just like us. But they performed a lot of pious activities, so they have a high administrative post within this dark material universe. But no demigod can offer liberation, not even Lord Brahma. He explained that to Hiranyakashipu. No one can offer liberation from this material world except for the Supreme Lord himself.
The Krishna consciousness movement can very easily point out such foolish persons, for they have been indicated in Bhagavad-Gita 7.15, where Lord Krishna says, Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhamaha mayaya aparuta jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Anyone who is not a devotee of Krishna and does not surrender to Krishna must be considered Naradhama, the lowest of men, and Dushkriti, one who always commits sinful activities. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 2 and 3.
So there's Sukriti, and from Sukriti we advance, we get elevated. And there's Duskriti, which is performing sinful activities. So there are words here that are in the same words that are in the previous verse about the demigod worshippers. But here it says, Namam prapadyante. They don't surrender to me, these Naradamas, lowest amongst mankind, because they're Duskritinas. They're sinful. And then Maya has stolen their intelligence. There again is Shrita Jnana. So how has Maya stolen their intelligence? Because they think they're the body, therefore they want, because all living entities are seeking pleasure. So they think, because they're under the illusion that they're the body, they think they can enjoy with the body. So that's the covering of Maya. She throws into different species of life, and she covers our intelligence by thinking that we're the particular body that we've been thrown into. And therefore, in the human species, when a person in this illusion wants to enjoy, they go to the demigods rather than to Sri Krishna directly.
Thus there is no difficulty in finding out who is the third class or fourth class man. For one's position can be understood simply by this crucial test. Is he or is he not a devotee of Krishna? Why are devotees of the demigods greater in number than Vaishnavas? The answer is given herein. Vaishnavas are not interested in such fourth class pleasures as wine and women, nor does Krishna allow them such facilities. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.2 and 3.
So depending upon the type of body we have, we're conditioned to a particular type of pleasure. For instance, a pig, he's very happy eating stool, and if you give him a nice fruit, he'll also roll that around in the dirt before he eats it, because he's conditioned to enjoy like that. So lower class human beings, they're conditioned to enjoy according to their modes of nature, passion and ignorance. So they believe that enjoyment is wine and women. But the Vaishnavas, who have transcended even the mode of goodness, they have nothing to do with such bodily pleasures. Their pleasure is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, the 9 processes of devotional service for bringing Krishna pleasure. Because when Krishna is pleased, automatically the devotee is pleased.
In an intoxicated condition, they both entered the water of Ganges, which was full with lotus flowers. And there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls, exactly as a male elephant enjoys the female elephants within the water. Krishna Book, Chapter 10. Within the waters of the Mandakini Ganges, which were crowded with gardens of lotus flowers, the 2 sons of Kuvera would enjoy young girls, just like 2 male elephants enjoying in the water with female elephants. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.4. People generally go to the Ganges to be purified of effects of sinful life. But here is an example of how foolish persons enter the Ganges to become involved in sinful life. It is not that everyone becomes purified by entering the Ganges. Everything, spiritual and material, depends on one's mental condition. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.4.
So here we're talking about Shiva's abode. How even in Lord Shiva's abode, a person's consciousness can be so polluted that they enter the Ganges in order to enjoy sense gratification. And they're enjoying just like animals, like elephants here. Prabhupada gives other examples when he went to their places in the world near the ocean where the people enjoy what's called surfing. There's one place in Australia called Surfer's Paradise. And all around Hawaii is just like a heavenly planet. Very beautiful, the fruits just dropping from the trees. You can live just by eating the fruits from the trees. Beautiful place. But the people are addicted to this surfing. And surfing means you have a board and you ride on the waves of the ocean. All day they do it. So Prabhupada said they're not surfers, they're sufferers. And if they want to enjoy like this, then let them become fish. Then they can really enjoy. Why they need a human body if they're going to enjoy on the ocean riding on the waves all day? So foolish people don't understand that according to their activities, they're creating their next body. So here also in Vrindavan we have this problem. It's not a new problem. For instance, even in Krishna's time, the greatest devotees lived here, and the greatest demons also lived here. Kamsa would send them. They lived here and they died here also. So sometimes people come to Vrindavan with the spirit of enjoyment as a picnic place. And Prabhupada very much admonished that Vrindavan is not for our enjoyment. Vrindavan is the place, this is Krishna's eternal place of pastime. And we should come here with a very devotional mood, and the 10 offenses against the holy Dham should be very carefully followed, and that is not to commit any sinful activities, not to disrespect the Guru, not to disrespect the Shastras that glorify the holy Dham, not to disrespect any of the residents in Vrindavan. But some foolish people, they think, because they heard that if you commit a sinful activity in Vrindavan, you just have to take one animal birth here and then you're liberated. So they think, well, I'll just commit my sinful activities here and I'll have to take one birth maybe as a monkey, maybe as a dog, and then I'll be liberated. But it doesn't always work. You can't trick Krishna. Prabhupada explained that only if involuntarily, that means accidentally, we perform some sinful activity here in the Dham, then that allowance is there, the special mercy of Radha and Krishna. But there are other, for instance, there are monkeys. So the monkeys here, they're all devotees. They performed some mistake in their previous birth, they had to take birth here. But some monkeys get captured and taken to the West, and their genitals are removed and put onto human beings. So they don't get to die here. And because they had such desires, so therefore they had to take monkey birth. And monkeys also, they're vegetarian, they live in the forest, they don't have any clothes, they're very renounced. But each monkey, he'll have 10 or 20 women also. So we shouldn't try to trick Krishna. If we come to the holy Dham, it should only be for the purpose of purification. So here, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, they were performing sinful activities within Lord Shiva's abode, right in the Ganges River. And they're going to get a heavy reaction for this.
While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of the sudden Narada, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He could understand that the demigods Nal Kuvair and Manigriv were too intoxicated and could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed at being naked before the great sage Narada. They began to cover themselves with all haste. Krishna Book, Chapter 10. O Maharaj Parikshit, by some auspicious opportunity for the two boys, the great saint Devarshi Narada once appeared there by chance. Seeing them intoxicated with rolling eyes, he could understand their situation. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.5.
Because just like here in Vrindavan we have experience, there are many great devotees who live here. And there are also people come here for other purposes. So there also, in the heavenly planets, there are many, many great devotees. Narada Muni, he was wandering there. He's the Paramahansa Paribrajacacharya, Narada Muni. So while he was wandering there, he saw this scene that was going on. Now this happens in other places also. You can read different portions of the Puranas. For instance, Durvasa Muni, he was doing intense tapasya and meditation in a cave, and the Apsara Tilotama and the son of Bali Maharaj, they went to a cave next door to him and started enjoying sense gratification. And the sounds they were making while they were enjoying interrupted Durvasa Muni's meditation. And when he saw what they were doing, his mind became polluted and he cursed them both. And Tulotama, she had to take birth as Banu's daughter, a demon's daughter. She was Usha. And the son of Bali Maharaj, because he was already born in a demoniac dynasty, he had to take birth, I think, as Dhenukasura, because he was acting just like an ass, like a donkey. So they're mixed. Some people come there to enjoy, and some people there are great sages. And as a reaction to this, Durvasa Muni, because he saw them enjoying, his mind also became polluted. And he then desired to get married. And it goes on more and more stories in the different Puranas. So here we have Narada Muni wandering in the forest here by Shiva's abode, and he sees these two fallen demigods along with the women. And the women, who are not so intoxicated, they were very ashamed of themselves, so they covered themselves up.
It is said, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Hai. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22.54. The verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can attain all success. Wherever Narada Muni goes, any moment at which he appears is understood to be extremely auspicious. It is also said, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. It's purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.5.
So Lava Matra, that means just a fraction of a second. This Lava Matra. Lava, it's just like 1/10 of a second, something like that. Even that much little bit of association, just the sight of a pure devotee, of a sadhu, can purify one's existence. Because this is why we wear tilak. This is why we wear saris and dhotis and kurtas. It's an austerity to dress like this, especially in the hot season. But we do that because this is the uniform of a Vaishnava. So that anyone who sees us, even if we're not sadhus, they remember Krishna, and they think, oh, here's a Vaishnava. Just like the officer, the police officer's uniform. So this is the uniform of a Vaishnava. So Narada Muni, he being a pure devotee, he was the eternal spaceman, he could go to any planet. He happened to be wandering here on Shiva Lok, near Kailash mountain, and now he's going to give them mercy.
According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.151. Narada appeared in the garden to give the two sons of Kuvera the seed of devotional service, even though they were intoxicated. Saintly persons know how to bestow mercy upon the fallen souls. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.5.
So Nalakuvara and Manigriva, they didn't show any symptoms of even desiring to engage in devotional service for the Supreme Lord. They had completely forgotten their constitutional position as servants of the Lord, and they were enjoying topmost so-called pleasure with the women in the heavenly planets. But Narada Muni, being a pure devotee, he took compassion on them. He knew that they had simply forgotten their real goal of life, and therefore he wanted to purify them. And he knew what the medicine was for them to again remember who they actually were.
The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of sage Narada, and therefore did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narada desired their welfare, therefore exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them. Krishna Book, Chapter 10. Upon seeing Narada, the naked young girls of the demigods were very much ashamed. Afraid of being cursed, they covered their bodies with their garments, but the two sons of Kuvera did not do so. Instead, not caring about Narada, they remained naked. Seeing the two sons of demigods naked and intoxicated by opulence and false prestige, Devarshi Narada, in order to show them special mercy, desired to give them a special curse. Thus he spoke as follows. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.6 and 7.
So here they're getting Labhamatra Sadhu Sangha. They didn't ask for it. It's just by the supreme arrangement of the Lord that Narada Muni happened to be walking by. We have another similar incident when Sukadeva Goswami left home after he heard Srimad Bhagavatam while in the womb of his mother, and he wouldn't come out because he was afraid of being contaminated again because he was a Brahmavadi. Vyasadeva called Krishna and asked Krishna to promise him that if he comes out, he won't be affected by Maya. So then Sukadeva Goswami came out of the womb and immediately left home. He was naked, he was completely carefree, he just started walking. And Vyasadeva started running after him because Vyasadeva was his father. He wanted him to stay home and get the sanskaras that are after birth. You have to perform all the sanskaras. So Sukadeva Goswami, he also passed some young girls who were bathing naked. And the young girls could understand that Sukadeva Goswami had no discrimination between male and female. His mind was so pure. So the girls didn't even bother covering themselves up. But when Vyasadeva walked by, the girls immediately grabbed their clothes and covered themselves up in shame. And the reason is because Vyasadeva, being a Grihastha distinguishes between male and female. So they knew that Vyasadeva didn't have that same elevated mentality as his son Sukadeva Goswami. So here Narada Muni, he's a Naishtika brahmachari. He never engaged in sense gratification his entire life. Even when he was approached, we'll hear about this later, he refused, and therefore he was cursed. Narada Muni gets quite a few curses, but he was cursed for not engaging in sense gratification. So in this instance, he's going to curse these two boys because they've fallen into this trap of sense gratification, of intoxication, and illicit association with women.
Narada Muni was a Naishtika Brahmachari. When he refused to accept Jara's lusty request, she became very angry and cursed him severely. She said that he would not be able to stay in one place for a long time. Daksha became most angry at Narada Muni and cursed him, saying that in the future he would not be able to stay anywhere. Once there was a Sankirtan festival to glorify the Supreme Lord in assembly of demigods. The Gandharvas and Apsaras were invited to take part in it. He also joined, and surrounded by women, he began singing the glories of demigods. Because of this, Prajapatis forcefully cursed him. Because you have committed an offense, may you immediately become a Shudra, devoid of beauty. His first offense was that he went to join the Sankirtan party in the company of lusty women. And another offense was that he considered ordinary songs like cinema songs and other such songs to be equal to Sankirtan. By Sri Krishna's desire, many great sages, headed by Narada and Vishwamitra, cursed the young boys of Yadu dynasty by saying, "She will give birth to a club that will destroy your family."
So 2 births previous to Narada, when Narada was born as the son of Brahma, he was a Gandharva in the heavenly planets. And he was very handsome. He was a beautiful singer. And he had many wives. Many women were attracted to his beauty and his singing. So one time they were having the Prajapatis, demigods were having a Sankirtan festival like we have our Kirtan Melas. And he was invited to sing. So all of his wives and the women came along with him. And he was sitting there, instead of singing Sankirtan in glorification of the Lord, he was singing the glories of the demigods. So the Prajapatis got very angry at him, and they cursed him to become a Sudra. So Narada Muni, in his own lifetime, understood the value of being cursed for committing offenses in the heavenly planets. So he was cursed to become a little Sudra boy, and in that birth, as a young boy, he was able to associate with Bhakti-Vedantas, who blessed him. And then he spent that whole life wandering and meditating on the Lord. And finally, in his next birth, he was able to take birth as Narada Muni, as the son of Lord Brahma. So Narada Muni, he also was cursed in the heavenly planets, 2 births previous. And now he's going to curse these 2 brothers so that they can get the same mercy that he got by getting cursed. The first curse, Jara, she's old age. So she wanted to marry him. And this happens quite frequently. If someone is a very powerful and pure brahmachari, then Prabhupada also, he explains that a lot of time women even come to the holy dhams looking for such brahmacharis because they want to have a son by them. They want to marry them. So when Jara saw this powerful Narada Muni, Naishtika brahmachari, she proposed marriage to him. She was very lusty. And he refused her. So she cursed him that he couldn't stay in one place for a long time. Therefore he's always traveling around. And Prabhupada explains that this is what happens. If you engage in sex life, then Jara, old age, by engaging in sex life, then you have to suffer old age. But if you maintain brahmacharya, then you don't have to suffer the miseries of old age.
Although in the beginning Narada Muni appeared very angry and cursed them, at the end the 2 demigods Nalakuver and Manigri were able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna face to face. Thus the curse was ultimately auspicious and brilliant. One has to judge what kind of curse Narada placed upon them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives herein a good example. When a father finds his child deeply asleep, but the child has to take some medicine to cure some disease, the father pinches the child so that the child will get up and take the medicine. In a similar way, Narada Muni cursed Nalakuvar and Manigri in order to cure their disease of material blindness. Report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.7.
So Narada Muni, just like an expert physician, he knew exactly what type of medicine to give to cure their disease of material blindness. You can see the two demigods there in the roots of the trees. They get direct darshan of Sri Krishna. He came there just to give them his darshan, to fulfill this benediction. It's a benediction and a curse that Narada Muni gave to the two brothers. And Narada Muni knew that first he was angry. He appeared to be angry, so he cursed them to become trees. But then when they surrendered to him, then he gave them the blessing that you will have the darshan of Krishna and then be liberated.
Because the great sage was compassionate upon them, he wanted to finish their false enjoyment of intoxication and association with young girls, and wanted them to see Lord Krishna eye to eye. Krishna book chapter 10. Narad Muni said, among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is undereducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.8.
So because their father was Kuvera and he had unlimited wealth, even Venkateshwara, when he wanted to marry Padmavati, he went to Kuvera for wealth. He borrowed some money for the wedding celebration. That's why people go and put money in the hundi to pay back Kuvera. So Kuvera was so wealthy. And Narada Muni explains here that of the different types of opulences, to have wealth blinds one the most, because even if one's an ignorant fool, they'll still think that they're very, very important and have great qualities simply because of their wealth. So this is the type of blindness that Nalakuvera and Manigriva had because of their father's wealth. And therefore they engaged that wealth in such low pleasures as wine, women, and gambling.
Among the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, people are certainly conducted by the lower qualities, namely passion and ignorance, and especially by passion. Conducted by the mode of passion, one becomes more and more involved in material existence. Therefore, human life is meant for subduing the modes of passion and ignorance and advancing in the mode of goodness. Tada rajastamo bhavaha kama lobhadayasya chetayete ranavidham sitam sattve prasidati. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.19. This is purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.8. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and becomes completely happy. And he becomes completely happy. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.19.
So in the mode of ignorance, there's lethargy and there's dreaming. One wants to become happy, but they can't, because of this mode of ignorance. They're simply dreaming of it. They can't do it. Just like sometimes we have some ideas in our Krishna consciousness for some preaching idea or going here, going there, but we just never get it done. So that's our mode of ignorance. Mode of passion means you work very hard for some result. It's a greedy feeling. So even in devotional service, if one is performing devotional service in order to get some return, some fruit, that's devotional service in the mode of passion. And devotional service finally in the mode of goodness is when you're not interested in getting any result, you want liberation from all of the entanglements of the material world. And over and above that is this irrevocable loving service, the pure devotional service to the Lord. So Narada Muni, having locked these two brothers up in the form of trees, they couldn't move, there is no question of their enjoying. They could only stand there for 100 years of the demigods, and they could meditate on their offenses and how only the Supreme Lord was going to be able to liberate them from their miserable condition as trees.
This is culture. One must subdue the modes of passion and ignorance. In the mode of passion, when one is falsely proud of wealth, one engages his wealth only for three things, namely wine, women, and gambling. We can actually see, especially in this age, that those who have unnecessary riches simply try to enjoy these three things. In Western civilization, these three things are very prominent because of an unnecessary increase of wealth. Narada Muni considered all this in the case of Manigriv and Nalakuver because he found in them so much pride in the wealth of their father Kuvera. A report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.8.
So they lived in the heavenly planets, and therefore their ability to enjoy was much greater than what we have here on the earthly planets. But here on earth, there are places that are 100% dedicated to these three things. In fact, they're whole cities. There's one place in America called Las Vegas. Another name for it is Sin City. And the only things that go on there are wine, women, and gambling. We also have a temple there. And they have their Mangal Artik, I think, at like 9 o'clock in the morning, because the people who are in Las Vegas, they've come there for very heavy enjoyment. They're up all night gambling and drinking and enjoying with women. So therefore the Mangal Arati is a little later to try to catch people so they could at least come to the temple sometime. So these sin cities, so many places are like that now. You go to New York, of course I haven't been to many places, but all around the world, there's cities that simply offer these three things, wine, women, and gambling. Because people are so much in the mode of passion, and they have money. And they think that with this money, they can buy happiness. And they think this happiness is from these three things: intoxication, illicit association with women, and gambling. Gambling means if I just take a chance, I can get more money, and then I can enjoy even more. But it's all a gamble. It never works out. They never win.
He conceived of cursing them as follows. He said that the attraction for material enjoyment is due to an increase of mode of passion. A person in the material world, when favored by material opulence of riches, generally becomes addicted to three things: intoxication, sex, and gambling. Materially opulent men, being puffed up with the accumulation of wealth, also become so merciless that they indulge in killing animals by opening slaughterhouses, and they think that they themselves will never die. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization up to the position of demigods, will finally be burned to ashes. Krishna Book, Chapter 10.
In this material world, it's just like we're inside of a dark coconut. It's all dark inside. And all of the living entities who have been injected into this particular universe, how do they live? They all live by eating each other. It's the only way you can live here, if you eat another living entity. Even if you're vegetarian, you're still eating another living entity. So here, everyone is eating everybody else just to stay alive. It's a terrible place, terrible. And we're locked in. It's like a coconut with the shell. How to get out? The only way to get out is the mercy of a pure devotee and who can benedict you with the mercy of Krishna, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, by planting the seed of devotion. When the seed of devotion is planted in our heart, then the Bhakti Lata Bij grows and grows. It can pierce through the covering of the universe and reach Krishna's lotus feet in the spiritual world. So every single body that's injected into the Jivatma that is injected, who gets a material body, they all have to die. And there are three things, we'll read what those three things are that happens to the body. Everyone has to go through this, even the demigods.
Unable to control their senses, rascals who are falsely proud of their riches or their birth in aristocratic families are so cruel that to maintain their perishable bodies, which they think will never grow old or die, they kill poor animals without mercy. Sometimes they kill animals merely to enjoy an excursion. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.9. When the modes of passion and ignorance increase in human society, giving rise to unnecessary economic development, the result is that people become involved with wine, women and gambling. Then, being mad, they maintain big slaughterhouses or occasionally go on pleasure excursions to kill animals. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.9.
Because once one voluntarily engages in these sinful activities of intoxication, illicit association, and gambling, their intelligence is completely bewildered. They lose their austerity, they lose their cleanliness, they lose their, from intoxication they lose tapasya, from illicit sex they lose cleanliness, from meat eating they lose mercy, and then from gambling they lose truthfulness. So they completely forget who they are. And in that condition, they have no understanding that at the time of death, they're going to have to enter into a new body according to their activities in this present body. So therefore, simply for momentary pleasure of the body, they engage in more and more sinful activities. And the worst is this loss of mercy. For no purpose, simply for sport, they kill animals. Or, on the other hand, they have huge slaughterhouses, killing so many innocent animals in the most abominable ways. They're thrown into boiling water so that they boil to death. They're thrown in alive. Or they're hung upside down and their necks are slit. It's the most terrible thing. You don't even want to hear about it. What goes on in these slaughterhouses. And by eating the fruits or the reactions of this violent activity, so much sinful reaction it has to be suffered by each living entity. So we have to be very, very careful that all of the prasadam, or everything we eat is offered, and it's just according to what Krishna tells us we can eat. And even then there's a little bit of sinful reaction, because even when you kill a plant to get its grain, to get its fruits, to get its vegetables, we're not vegetarians, we're Krishnatarians. And that means whatever Krishna says we're allowed to offer to him, we offer that, and then the sinful reaction is removed. So we have to be very careful to avoid these four things that we've taken vows not to perform.
Forgetting that however one may try to maintain the body is subject to both death, old age and disease. Such foolish rascals engage in sinful activities one after another. Being dushkritis, they completely forget the existence of the Supreme Controller, who is sitting within the core of everyone's heart. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. Bhagavad-Gita 18.61. That Supreme Controller is observing every bit of one's activity, and he awards or punishes everyone by giving one a suitable body made by material nature. Ramayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. Bhagavad-Gita 18.61. In this way, sinful persons that automatically receive punishment in different types of bodies. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.9.
And this goes on perpetually. Just like every time we breathe, every time we take a breath of air, we're killing microbes. And we have to suffer for that if we're not engaged in breathing and talking for Krishna. So every second of our life has to be dedicated to Krishna. Otherwise, this samsara is practically impossible to get out of unless we take shelter of Krishna. There just mention of about 26 hellish planets in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you do this, you go to that hellish planet. If you do that, you go to this hellish planet. But there are unlimited hellish reactions for the sinful activities performed in this material world. So all of those sinful reactions, Krishna says, Ma sochaha, don't worry, I will protect you. You simply surrender unto me. So we're in a very precarious situation. We have no choice, Prabhupada said earlier. Actually, we have no choice but to surrender to Krishna. Either we surrender in fear or we surrender in love. So naturally, devotee, they prefer to surrender in love to Krishna and render loving service to him.
The root cause of this punishment is that when one unnecessarily accumulates wealth, one becomes more and more degraded, not knowing that his wealth will be finished with his next birth. Na sadhu manye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadehaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.9. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of his life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living. It engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4.
So here you have the demigod worshippers. They're worshipping Kuvera. Kuvera is worshipping Lord Shiva. And by worshipping Kuvera, they're getting wealth. And they falsely believe that this wealth is going to make them happy. But whatever wealth they receive, it's all finished at the time of death. They can't take one paisa with them. And what they do take with them is the reaction to their sinful and their pious activities. So for a devotee, they're not interested in even pious activities. They simply want to engage in Krishna's sense gratification, satisfying the senses of Rishikesh, because when he's satisfied, automatically we become satisfied.
Animal killing is prohibited. Every living being, of course, has to eat something. Jivo jivasya jivanam. But one should be taught what kind of food one should take. Therefore, the Ishopanishad instructs, Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. One should eat whatever is allotted for human beings. Ishopanishad mantra number 1. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita 9.26, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparutam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit or water, I will accept it. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.9.
So this is what's been allotted to the human beings. Fruits, vegetables, grains, milk products. And if we not just eat those things have to be offered in yajna to the Supreme Lord. That's why we call it bhoga. First it's called bhoga, which means enjoyment. And then we offer to the Lord. And then, after the Lord hears our prayers, sees the offering, because all of his senses are interchangeable, just by seeing the bhoga, then he eats that, and then he returns it to us in the form of prasadam. Prasadam means mercy, and that's what we eat. So it's not sufficient just to be vegetarian, patram pushpam phalam. No, we have to be Krishnatarian. We have to offer all of these things to Krishna so that it becomes prasadam.
Isha vasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagattena tyaktena bhunjitaha mavrda kasya svidhanam. Isha, by the Lord. Avasyam means controlled. Idam means this. Sarvam means all. Yat kincha means whatever. Jagatyam means within this universe. Jagat means all that is animate or inanimate. Tena means by him. Tyaktena means set apart quota. Bunjitaha means you should accept. Ma means do not. Grudha means endeavor to gain. Kasyasvit means if anyone else. Dhanam means the wealth. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Shri Upanishad, mantra number 1.
We'll end here and continue tomorrow. Hare Krishna.